Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hope we're having a wonderful day so far. And we've got some ongoing winter weather out there, and that is really only the beginning of what is going to be a very cold and really wintry week for much of the country as another storm system begins to barrel on through the Pacific Northwest and eventually sliding on down through the Rockies and into the eastern half of the country by the time we get into later this work week. Now, I do have some good news for you here, kind of on the tail end of the video. I do see some signs of a warm-up in the medium to long range. So for you folks who are maybe not such big fans of all this winter weather, and I know a lot of folks are probably tired of exactly how cold it is because it is really frigid for a big section of the country here. But again, good news there on the horizon. And for you snow lovers who haven't gotten anything yet, also good news for you because I think going into February, we've got a really nice pattern setting up for a return to winter weather after a little bit of a warm-up here to end out January. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course, comment, let me know where you're watching from and kind of what you're seeing out there in your area. Now, I will mention, unfortunately, Tuesday morning is a very busy morning for me. In fact, I'm recording this well earlier than I'd like to admit because I have an 8:30 class, so I did not get around to putting together the photo submissions that I got yesterday, but I promise I'll put those in tomorrow's video when I have a little bit more time to kind of prepare in the morning. But that also remind me that if you do have photos, definitely submit them with the link below. Alrighty, I think that's enough of me rambling on. Let's go ahead and get on into it here. And we'll start off kind of like we normally do here with satellite imagery and taking a look at our kind of infrared satellite, if you will. We've got a pretty active scene out there. We have this ongoing, continued kind of amplification of the southern jet stream here in the southern half of the country, and that has led to low pressure, again, riding up the coast the past day or so, and now that low pressure working up along the northeast coastline, bringing snow and even a little bit of ice to you folks. And then the other big thing you need to notice here as well is all of this cold air that is spilling in behind that front. Again, I mentioned this the past couple of videos, but all this stagnant blue back here into the Midwest, that's just cold air at the surface. Those are not actually cloud tops. It's just that cold out here that it's being picked up as cloud tops. So again, as this front finally clears on through here, we're going to finally cool down for us folks down here into the southeast that have, before this, really been quite lucky and gotten away with really a little bit of warmth, at least compared to the rest of the country. Now taking a look at watches, warnings, advisories, and radar imagery. Starting with radar imagery, we'll go to the northeast. We do have snow continuing to fall here through much of the northeast, from Pennsylvania back into New York and up towards the Boston area. Albany seeing some snow this morning. And we've got widespread winter weather advisories due to that, even winter storm warnings. Washington, D.C. Got enough snow last night that they were upgraded to a winter storm warning, which is their first, and I'm not quite sure how long, but it's definitely been a while. So again, this winter pattern did not disappoint. A lot of places that have not seen a lot of snow really within the past year or two, definitely cashing in here with some of those snow totals. Now, further off towards the south here along the southeast, we're seeing some rain this morning along the I-85 corridor from Atlanta up through Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte. All rain for you folks here. Again, that cold air is just getting kind of stuck here on the other side of the Appalachia chain. But as whatever is left of this rain slowly moves offshore, that cold air will slowly but surely kind of ooze in through those valleys. And that will definitely catch up to us who have been a little bit more lucky and gotten away from that cold air so far with this event. Now, obviously, that cold air is still a big problem in the central part of the country. We've got widespread wind chill watches, warnings, and advisories all the way down to really the Gulf Coast. So it's going to be a very cold day, and we'll take a look at those temperatures here in just a moment. But the final thing I'll mention to you here, back into the West Coast, a lot of winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings, and winter weather advisories in effect now, including Portland, Oregon, now under an ice storm warning for a big ice event that is on the way as that next storm system slowly works on into the country here, really starting today, but going into tomorrow as well. Alrighty, that is not the only thing we do need to discuss here. We do have a bit of a severe weather threat today, and that will be in the state of Florida. In fact, we had a tornado yesterday in Port St. Lucie, which, definitely looked like a pretty big one on some of the videos we saw, and maybe not big in size, but strength-wise, very impressive mesocyclone that was kind of attached to there, and really a classic tornado look. So the National Weather Service will go out and survey that damage, and we'll get an exact rating back. But either way, kind of an interesting scene out there, and we could do it all again today. A marginal risk in effect for Tampa, Fort Myers, back towards Lake Okeechobee, and up kind of along the Space Coast here. Florida, where we could see some strong storms as, again, this front is slowly kind of sagging southward, interacting with that warm Gulf air. That's going to have enough ingredients here that we could see some isolated supercells, and we'll take a look at that here with our latest kind of model for this afternoon and this evening. All right, now take a sip of Red Bull. Maybe we'll get through this. Again, it is very early, and I was up very late last night watching the Eagles lose, unfortunately. So I do apologize if maybe I seem a little down in the dumpster, but we'll be okay. We'll get through this. So looking at the southeast radar through the rest of today and going into tomorrow, again, it'll rain likely here into the Carolinas and even down into southern Georgia and into northern Florida, hence my rain jacket I have on right now that I'm about to walk outside with. But we do also have the chance for a little bit of ice, so don't get caught off guard. If you're here into southern Alabama, even the extreme western Florida panhandle, we've got enough of that Arctic air, again, catching up here that we could see some freezing rain here. Not out of the question for you folks. Luckily, a bit of a short-lived event, so it should be gone by about the time it starts. And once we're getting into this afternoon, really just some leftover rain showers from southeast Virginia down the I-95 corridor of the Carolinas into Georgia. But where that severe weather threat is going to be down here with this line. Look at this pretty potent line of storms here, moving on through the peninsula of Florida, kind of through Ocala, and eventually move southward through Tampa Bay here about 4 o'clock tonight, down through Fort Myers, Naples, and even through Lake Okeechobee and the east coast of Florida by about the time the sun is going down here. But luckily, by the time we get to about 10, 11 o'clock tonight, we should dry out and clear out. And if you're very lucky in the Carolinas, I'm not going to rule out, hard to see on your map, but maybe a little, a couple of flurries on the backside this evening, not out of the question. I know the Carolinas have gotten kind of gypped, if you will. Everyone else, it feels like, has gotten snow here, except for you folks in Ohio. I'm very well aware in the comments that you folks have not gotten snow. I've been very loud and clear there. But again, maybe some flurries on the backside this evening here into sections of the Carolinas, but more of a novelty event than anything before we clear out going on into our Wednesday morning here. Now, northeast, a little bit more of an interesting kind of scenario here where we still have a shield of snow ongoing for much of this morning and afternoon. Again, it's going to continue to snow through Pennsylvania and into much of New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and even up into Maine this afternoon. Now, another thing I cannot rule out, we could get kind of a resurgence of moisture later this morning. That could bring a little bit of ice as some more warm air aloft kind of moves on through sections of Philadelphia, Trenton, maybe up through New York City. This won't be a super big ice event, but enough that it could kind of lay on top of some of that snow that has already fallen and make travel kind of already worse than it is. Now, 1 o'clock this afternoon, again, snowing good in the interior northeast from western Massachusetts through kind of your normal winning spots, but a little bit of ice, again, trying to work in here through Connecticut, Rhode Island, and even into Long Island as a little bit of warm air is getting pushed in aloft there. Now, as we move this later on into this afternoon, this is about 3 o'clock, that snow shield pulls off towards the north and east, still snowing good for a lot of folks in the northeast. Boston, it's going to be close. There might be enough warm air here that kind of your rain for most of this event as that low pressure tracks a little bit further inland than maybe originally thought. And then also, again, that kind of layer of ice here, also potentially through Connecticut, Rhode Island, sections of central Mass, but areas to the north of there and to the west of there are really an all-snow event, and it's going to pile up pretty good here throughout the afternoon and about the time the sun is setting here on your map. You'll notice that snow now kind of lifting up towards much of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and will continue to snow in those states through much of this evening and overnight before, or by the time we're waking up tomorrow, all we've got left are those normal lake effect bands kind of into upstate New York and then back down towards the Buffalo area. And that lake effect snow could continue for a while here throughout the day Wednesday and even into the overnight hours of Wednesday. So again, it's been a very big lake effect kind of week or so for this area, and that is going to continue here for the next couple of days. All right, ice accumulation here. Again, I think there will be some, a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, which it's already snowed in most of these areas, so it won't be just this ice, but this will probably fall on top of whatever snow you already have from kind of northern Delaware up the I-95 corridor through Philadelphia, New Jersey, into New York, and eventually there into southern Connecticut and through much of Rhode Island, seeing a little bit of ice here going through much of today. Now, snowfall totals, again, we're going to get some pretty good helping of snow left over here. I think about half a foot through much of northern Maine and into the higher terrains of Vermont and New Hampshire, with about 3 to 5 inches of snow here through northeast Pennsylvania, extreme northern New Jersey, and up into kind of the Hudson River Valley here into much of New York State and western Massachusetts. So, not a blockbuster storm, but enough that it's definitely worth mentioning, and is going to cause some travel impacts out there for a lot of folks. Now, if you're watching this video in this afternoon, not quite this much to come. This is throughout all of today, so subtract whatever you see from about 7 o'clock this morning, from these totals, and that's about how much you'll have left. But again, still a pretty good snow event, and also I will quickly mention again, the lakes going to continue pumping out that lake effect machine. So over the next 48 hours, we could see another foot or two of snow in those places that kind of get lucky or unlucky, depending on your view of it, with some of those lake effect snow bands. All right, the other thing is, again, that Arctic air slowly spilling in throughout today. Max temperatures today, and this might be a little deceiving here through sections of the Carolinas because we might hit these high temperatures kind of early afternoon or late morning and then kind of go downhill from there. But you'll notice here's that Arctic front. It is not hard to see. Most of the country staying below freezing all day today, with, again, the extreme southeast here through the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, the only places holding on to that warm air. But that's going to change quickly. Going into tomorrow, you'll notice tomorrow's high temperatures, that cold air now kind of slowly pushing eastbound, but also weakening a little bit. In fact, you'll even notice we've got some warm air now pushing back north here through Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas tomorrow afternoon as that next storm system kind of pulls a little bit of warm air northward. But tomorrow night, it's going to be frigid for a lot of folks here. Probably going to be the climax of this Arctic outbreak, I think, going into tomorrow evening and overnight, before we get another shot of cold air going into this coming weekend here. But again, overnight temperatures tomorrow night, not tonight, into the teens and single digits for much of the country, with 20s getting all the way down even into the Florida Panhandle and into the Upper Peninsula there. So again, a very cold kind of 48 hours here in store for a lot of folks. Alrighty, that's kind of the cold air. That's the current snow we're seeing out there. Here's our next storm, though, that we need to talk about. And this is going into kind of overnight tonight. You'll notice that starts to move inland out into the Pacific Northwest, noted by that kind of piece of energy on your map, and eventually kind of dives through the Rockies. And by the time we get into Thursday afternoon, here we go. We've got another area of spin in the atmosphere, allowing enough lift that we could get some snow once again in the east here. Kind of going into our Thursday afternoon for a lot of the same folks that just saw it, but also some new folks here. I think the Ohio River Valley, some folks that maybe have been a little, I don't want to say not getting a lot of snow, but maybe not quite as much as they would like, could see some out of this going into this Thursday, into this Friday, and eventually what happens after that is kind of the really big story here. Look at this big time trough kind of swinging on in. That's going to dive southward here, and we're going to get a reinforcing shot of Arctic air going into this weekend that could kind of surpass some of the cold temperatures that we saw even during this past couple of days stretch for some people. Now let's go ahead and start off with this storm system out west. Again, this is going into this afternoon, and here we go. Storm system moving in. Much like the last one, we've got ice in northwestern Oregon, snow in the higher terrains, and rain at the coast and in the valleys here. And that continues through much of this evening, overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. You'll notice snow and good, again, kind of in the Rockies, rain at the coast, and big time ice concerns in a lot of the places that just saw an ice storm not that long ago. Now that continues working on through here throughout the overnight hours of tonight and into early tomorrow morning. And by the time we're waking up on Wednesday, we've got more rounds of precipitation here. Widespread snow showers in the higher terrains here through Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah getting in on some of that snow action. And again, that rain continuing at the coast and even ice continuing for some folks. Now, the good news is by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, a lot of what was ice here in northwestern Oregon changing back to rain as warm air kind of gets pushed in here. Then we've just got, a kind of bigger rain threat than anything else. Then that storm kind of continues throughout the evening hours of Wednesday into the overnight, finally clearing out for much of the PNW by the time we're waking up Thursday here, but still widespread scattered snow showers here through much of the northern Rockies in this same time frame. All right, ice totals here. Again, it's going to be, noteworthy here. 1/4 of an inch upwards to potentially 1/2 an inch here through northwest Oregon once again. And we just got crippled by an ice storm. This is not going to help. This is only going to continue those power outage issues and travel issues we've had here in this part of the country. And again, going to be pretty impactful here. And the snow also going to be something worth mentioning here. A lot of it coming to those higher terrains of Washington State, Oregon, and into Idaho and Montana. Again, I always say this, but kind of, just pick your general area, know your elevation, and that'll give you a pretty good idea of how much snow you're going to see on this map. Alrighty. Now let's kind of track this storm in the east a little bit, a place that is also kind of no stranger to unsettled weather here, and that will continue through the stretch here upcoming. Now here we go, Thursday afternoon, here comes our storm. We've got some snow showers and even kind of a band of snow setting up here through Kentucky, southern Indiana, Illinois, and into Ohio, seeing some snow here. Again, a lot of people have let me know from Ohio that they have not seen much snow. Maybe you'll get some out of this one going into Thursday afternoon before eventually this storm system dives southward. Now, for you snow lovers in the southeast and east coast, unfortunately, that Arctic air and this piece of energy that is causing this lift are not really connecting. So we're not going to get a blockbuster storm out of this. This will be a pretty light to moderate event. But again, it could see once again more snow through D.C., Nashville, into much of Virginia, West Virginia, potentially into the Philadelphia area. Could see some snow here Thursday evening. Before, again, eventually precipitation just kind of dries up a little bit and the storm doesn't really get its act together till well offshore here going into Friday morning. We've just got some leftover rain and snow showers through much of the east. Rain likely in the Carolinas, snow from Virginia back towards Ohio and Kentucky. And maybe we'll get a bit of a burst, I think, on the backside here as a secondary piece of energy tries to work on in Friday afternoon. That could help bump up some of these snow totals through the Virginia area, potentially even southeastern Virginia. Hasn't seen really much of any snow at all this year. Up through Maryland, Delaware, back up into Philadelphia and New York could see some snow out of this. And again, likely some northwest flow on the backside as well, and potentially a bit of a lake effect snow event as well as those winds shift out of the north here, going Friday into Saturday before we all dry out, but cool down a lot as well. All right, how much snow out of this? Well, again, I think we'll get a good band here through Indiana, sections of Kentucky and Ohio. 1 to 3 inches of snow, not out of the question for you folks. And likely, less than that for the further south you go. A place like Nashville, maybe only a dusting to an inch or so, with our latest blend of models kind of indicating that here. Now in the northeast, a place that I do think is also going to see snow, but this is going to be more of a northern mid-Atlantic, southern northeast snowstorm. Here again through Ohio, the mountains of West Virginia, into northern Virginia, and kind of everyone circled here. I think, again, about an inch of snow is the most likely scenario right now, but we could see more than that. We'll have to see how the trends go here, especially the higher terrains of West Virginia. You could get a good snowstorm out of this one. But places like Philly, D.C., Baltimore, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, back towards Trenton, right now I'd say ballpark an inch or so. We might need to bump that up to 1 to 3 inches. Again, we'll just have to wait for the short range models to get a little bit closer here. Still working off of kind of long range data. Alrighty, so that's that storm. Now let's take a look at one final thing here, or I guess two final things, if you will. And that is temperatures. Again, this is this Wednesday afternoon temperature anomaly. So much like the temperatures I showed you earlier, well below average here for Wednesday afternoon. Once again, Thursday afternoon, but watch what happens back out here towards the kind of Midwest area. Another shot of kind of very cold air here, slowly diving south and eastbound. And by the time we're getting into this weekend, very cold air once again overtakes the country. Back in the Midwest, temperatures still 40 degrees, potentially below what they should be this time of year. Same story down here through the Tennessee River Valley. And looking at Saturday morning here, we'll start there. Again, very cold temperatures, extremely well below average. That continues into Saturday afternoon, well below average temperatures. And that cold air lasts likely going even into early next week before you'll notice. Look at this warming trend. We go from 40 degrees below what we should be this time of year on Saturday to maybe 10 degrees above what we should be going into our Monday. So this is going to flip like a switch, really, as that warm southerly flow once again returns going into next week. And by the time we get into the middle of next week, again, this is about 7 to 10 days from now, we've got widespread above average temperatures working back on into the picture here. Now, why is this? Well, look at this. Big time ridge likely to build back in the east here. Again, troughing now dumping back out west in this huge ridge. Probably, really, I would argue the biggest we've seen so far this winter, allowing a big time return to that southerly flow here. Now, that's going to warm things up. It's going to make it feel like spring a little bit. But I'll warn you, I think this is going to be kind of a false spring. I feel like we see this almost every winter. We've had a very active, very cold first half of January. The second half here, or at least I'd say the last third of the month, is going to warm up. We're all going to think, okay, cool, we've made it through winter. It's going to be nice. But then look at what happens here to end out January, the last couple of days, and into the start of February. Look at this big-time connection towards the polar regions. Another huge trough showing up on our ensembles here. Again, this is about 10 to 15 days out here, the last couple days of January going into February. But this has been very consistent in our models, and even in the long range, this was showing up kind of within the past couple weeks that the start of February could once again turn very cold. So if you're watching the Carolinas and you're wondering where's our snow been, where's our cold air been, well, you're going to get the cold air. As for the snow, this pattern this far out is one that is conducive. We could very easily see a low continue to kind of track along the southern tier, and with this cold air likely to dump out further east compared to west like we saw earlier in the month, we could finally get once again more snow chances for everyone here who's been kind of robbed a little bit of some of that snow during the first half of January. So again, we got a little bit of good news for everyone here. We've got some more cold air and snow this week if you're a fan of that. Then we get a warm up going into next week before once again back towards the wintry side of things here to start February, I think, and kind of end the last couple days of January. Alrighty, well again, I appreciate y'all hanging in there. I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'll try my best to get around to answering those. Again, Tuesdays are very busy for me. I've got a big class schedule here. And, as you can imagine, my education is kind of my top priority here, but I promise I'll make time for you folks as well. Alrighty, well, I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday out there, and I will see you all tomorrow.